Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Just getting our lives started. I am simultaneously on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Yay, technology. So, as always, if you see my eyes going back and forth, well, that's why. Um, we're telling your followers that you started a live video. Okay. All right. Well, we are here now. Happy friggin' Friday, right? Let's take a collective breath. We made it. Congratulations to all of us. No matter what happened, we are still here. We are still standing here. Welcome, welcome. So, I'm Claire Wasserman, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and a book that is all about helping women earn more and live better. And I'm seeing how fast I can say that in one breath. Okay, there we go. So here's what I do every Friday, or I try every Friday, is to share what I've learned this week. What's really exciting is that I've increased my coaching practice. So I actually have a lot of lessons to share with you from my client sessions. Yes, I have their permission. By the way, I have been sharing that on my personal LinkedIn. I've been doing a lot of posts where I talk about various things that my clients are dealing with and, ways that we're working through them all together. Before I get into my clients, the people I coached this week, and various things they were dealing with, I want to give a shout out to a piece of technology that I think you all should know about. I'm not getting a kickback from them, though. If they'd like to sponsor me, you can reach out. It is called Supernormal AI. Okay, just Google that. Supernormal AI Note Taker. What it does is freaking fantastic. If you pay for the upgrade, you can do Zoom. Currently, I'm not paying, so I'm using Google Hangout. It takes really comprehensive, good notes during your meetings. It sends you a summary and it gives you action items, which I love. And this has obviously been helpful for all of the clients that I'm coaching, right? For them to be able to not have to take notes while they're there. I want them to stay in the moment and present with me. But also, I think would be really good for anybody who wants to create content out of their meetings. If there are things that are being shared during those meetings that could go on your blog, could go on your LinkedIn, look into Supernormal AI. Okay. Sembly is another one. I think there's actually a ton of these, but I just, it's game changing. I used to take the notes myself. I also used to write up the summaries myself. Why waste your time if you can outsource it? Am I right? I'm all about ease these days. Before I make any decision, I'm like, let me stop. Is there an easier way to do this? Okay. That's what I wanted to give a shout out. I also wanted to just mention something about my personal journey this week, and then I will get into the 5 clients that I met with. So I decided that I was going to compartmentalize my emotions during a difficult conversation that I had with my wife. She was saying something that was very true and was making me feel bad. And so I said to her and myself, I am not going to let this in. I'm going to be stoic. And I did. I was able to sort of protect myself in that moment. And then guess what happened later that night? I pinched a nerve in my back. I literally threw out my back, could not move for 24 hours. Lesson learned that when you think that, StreamYard has lost access to your LinkedIn account. Well, that's not cool. So when you think that you are compartmentalizing your emotions, well, you might be in the short term, but in the long term, they're getting stored in your body and it's going to come out anyway later on, and it's going to be really inconvenient for you. So feel your feelings, people. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say was when I was experiencing depression this week, I was trying to focus on gratitude, right? As an antidote to that depression. Do y'all try that, right? These gratitude journals. Instead of making me feel better, though, the gratitude actually made me feel worse. Anyone experience that? Why did it make me feel worse? It felt like a burden. It felt like, how dare I feel depressed when I have all these amazing things going for me? So, if you're somebody where gratitude journaling is not working for you, don't worry about it. Better to just make friends with the feelings, like for me at least, the depression. It was like, can I just sit with my depression without trying to fix it? Wow, just it wants to be recognized and comforted, and that's it. That helped. Enough of my personal lessons. Now let's talk about the clients that I met with, the clients that I coached this week, some things they were going through and what helped them. And maybe it'll help you too. And by the way, as always, you can put in the chat wherever you're watching this, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. If you have any career, money questions that you think I can be helpful on, I'd love to help you. So here was client number 1. She was deciding between 2 job offers. They really represented kind of like the head and the heart, right? One was a big corporation, pretty good salary, lots of growth opportunity. And she was into it, but she honestly had a lot of fear because she'd really had a burnout before when she'd worked in corporations or corporate environments and had some health scares and just didn't know if she fully trusted herself that if she said yes to the corporate client that she wouldn't go overboard in trying to prove herself and would really just end up getting into that bad health situation. The other options, that was her head. Her heart option was a social mission oriented startup that did really good cause. She would have a huge impact, really get to roll up her sleeves. And the work felt really energizing to her. However, you know what didn't? That paycheck, it was going to be, I think, like a 30 or 40% cut from what she was currently making. And this was a big problem since she had recently purchased a new home and she was planning on expanding her family. She was torn. Which offer should she take? Now, in my coaching, I try not to prescribe anything to anybody. I'm not here to say one option is better than the other. I would rather kind of have you ask yourself insightful questions that will get you closer to what feels better. But in this situation, I actually did have an opinion and I kind of wanted to call her out. That's another piece of my style, guys. If you were to work with me as a client, if I were to coach you, I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be real with you. So here's what I said to this client. I said, what about this heart option, right? This social mission oriented startup makes you think that you're not going to get at least emotionally burnt out. Because that's the thing. That's the danger. I have seen it in my own life. When you are deeply connected to your work, as wonderful as that sounds on the surface, the reality of it is it's hard to shut off. It's hard to extract your identity from your work. And also, if it's a social oriented cause and hers was going to be working with underprivileged kids, man, like you get really wrapped. It's easy to take on the energy of other people, right? If you're an empathetic person. Whereas in the corporate client, and I sort of couldn't believe that I was arguing in favor of, as we said, the man. With the corporate client, since she cared less about it in terms of like it wasn't cause oriented, I said, can you envision yourself being able to, at the end of the day, closing your laptop and being present with your family? And she said, yeah, I could. And I said, so what you're really concerned about are actually your own tendencies of overworking, right? You just haven't learned the habits of placing those guardrails to prevent you from going overboard with the people pleasing, not setting boundaries, things like that. So that in and of themselves, it wasn't that the corporate environment would inherently lead to burnout. It was that she had a choice of if it was going to lead to burnout. And at least she'd be compensated for that burnout, right? Again, we're like the social oriented mission. Yeah, it was connected to what she like loves in her heart, but she was going to build financial resentment over the years for sure if she did that. So I asked her if she were to go with the corporate client, is there a way that she can carve out time in her week or in her month where she is doing more heart-oriented work, right? Because it's not to me a matter of which one do you choose? I mean, yes, at the end of the day, she had to choose one of these options, but does that mean by choosing the corporate client that she now is not going to do any kind of social oriented work in her life? No, she needs to make sure that that is part of her world. And so I asked her what would make her feel connected to her heart, right? Volunteering and then looking at her, given week or a given month or a given 6 months, where could, which organization could she get involved in, et cetera, right? So I thought that was really interesting of a conversation that I wanted to share with you all. Oh, by the way, the other thing that might be helpful if you are deciding, should you take the next job, this, let's say you're deciding between a number of jobs, or maybe it's just one job. Don't ask yourself, what will you get out of this current job? Ask, how does this next job position me for the one after that? Will it open up more doors for me? Will I get more exposure to more things, more people? Will I learn? Will I grow? Will I network? Right? What's going to be my day-to-day quality of life? There is a sacrifice in every choice that you make. It just is. You choose one thing, therefore inherently you are not choosing another thing. What is the sacrifice, right, that will be required in making that choice? And how does that align with your values, your goals, your priorities, right? And I don't think there's ever really a wrong choice. I think whatever you choose, it's how you use it, right? Let me tell you about my next client. Next person I coached, she was trying to figure out ways to expand and monetize her community. She was an entrepreneur. I work with both people who work for others and who also work for themselves or who desire to work for themselves. And she was deciding between various paths of monetization. And this piggybacks off a little bit of what I just shared with you in terms of like, what will I have to sacrifice to make this choice? I really urge her to think about the sustainability of the choice. If she were to go down this path of monetization, what was required to do that? And ultimately, was it going to be worth it? Because you might have a wonderful idea for your business and you may charge a certain amount for it. But guess what? It requires so much of you that ultimately wasn't worth doing. Okay. And so, one way for her to figure this stuff out was really getting intel from a trusted group of people. She has 75 people in her community. Even within that 75 people, picking out a few of them who've been real fans of hers and sending them a survey or scheduling 30-minute one-on-ones with them to get a sense of what do they not just want, but what do they need and what are they willing to pay for. And then figuring out a way to test it, right? Before you make some big decision of a program you want to offer to your company or to your, community or whatever, if there's a way that you can kind of test it out, gather more information. Now I'm going to tell you about another coaching client. I hope that you're all liking this. I'm seeing some people still here watching. That makes me very happy. So I'm enjoying telling you about my clients that I've coached this week because I know that the things they're going through are universal. Another person that I coached, she was felt really intimidated this week. Hi, Allison Taffel-Rabinowitz. Everybody should go check out our little LinkedIn live conversation we did earlier this week, all about compensation. You can see it on the Ladies Get Paid LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. But right now I'm sharing clients I met with this week and things we learned, things we talked about. So this client, she felt really bad imposter syndrome, and it was triggered by being asked to be on a panel, and another person on the panel she felt was just amazing, which she is. This other person was amazing. So was this, so was my client. And I asked her, what about this other person made you feel intimidated? Very specifically, because we can't come up with a plan unless we're getting very specific with the issue, getting to the core of the issue. And so she immediately said, this person has more experience than me. And that was true. This person did have more years of experience. What I really wanted my client to focus on was the impact she's had in the short years of experience and to not discount the informal experience that she's had. Technically, she's only been doing what she's doing for a certain amount of years. But I said, before you went into business for yourself, were you doing this informally? And did you have impact? And she said, hell yeah. Awesome. Then I wanted her to really dig into her unique value. Let me give you guys a tip that has worked for me, and I don't know if it'll work for you. You let me know. Here's how one way that I help figure out my unique value is I pretend that I am a speechwriter writing a speech for, and this is going to sound bad, but like a politician, but not a politician in the negative sense of the word, of just somebody who's going to be in front of a crowd that needs to rally them. Okay. And I want that crowd to get super jazzed about improving their life. And so when I'm writing about my unique value, and I often do this as I'm walking down the street, I go on a walk every day, right? So I'm not doing this sitting in front of my computer when, I find my energy gets stagnant. So you figure out the best kind of method in which you can let your ideas flow and just start speaking from the goddamn heart. What do you want people to do and to feel? And, so it's not this, I got to speak in business speak. By the way, for those just joining, I'm talking about a client that I coached this week who's works for herself. She has actually a business helping people write resumes. And she was feeling some imposter syndrome. And I said, if you were getting in front of a crowd and rallying them to believe in you and to believe in themselves, speak to me on that like that. And she just came out with this beautiful statement. She was like, you can trust me because I've seen it all. And she kept saying, you can trust me over and over again, and had all of these great sort of stories to use to illustrate why she was trustworthy. And when we looked on her website, I said, girl, you don't even put your picture on the website. No wonder, like you're talking about, you can trust me. Your site feels impersonal, right? And so, of course, your imposter syndrome is going to get triggered because you have not done all the work of digging into what makes you unique. And a great way to do that, like I said, is to just imagine you rallying up a crowd to get really excited about the work that you do. And part of that also, I recommended she go get testimonials from people she's worked with before so she can start to better understand what she brings to the table. We're just so close to ourselves, right? And plus, those can be things she puts on her website. And I also recommended to her and to any of you that might be experiencing these, very natural moments of self-doubt, review your action plan and trust that you are in the process of making progress, okay? Because that is all that we can hope for. You are an ambitious person, which I know you are because you are part of Ladies Get Paid or you are watching this. If you are an ambitious person, you know what that means? The goalposts keep moving. And hopefully that means you're pushing yourself. And that means that you always have room to improve. If you constantly, though, stay focused on, oh, I'm not good enough, or I haven't yet reached my goal, of course you're not going to feel great. So it's a question of, can you both hold both of those things to know that you are a rock star at what you do, and you also have more to do, okay, and more to learn. 2 more clients I want to share with you before I will let you all go. And I'm saying that as if you're a captive audience. You can go whenever you want, but I appreciate you sticking around. Next client that I coached, she was nervous about going to an in-person conference. She says that she's an introvert and she's looking actually for a new job. So this isn't just like going to a conference for, let's start meeting people. No, like she has an agenda, right? I said, why don't you reach out to people beforehand and set up one-on-one coffee meetings? Take the pressure off of yourself of having to, in the moment, finagle through the crowd and maybe they're talking to someone else. And I hate doing that. Tap, tap, tap. Hey, chances are they're not going to be available to meet with you. Do your networking online. And guess what? They're going to be happy to hear from you. That's what I said to her. They're going to this conference because they also want to network. That's why they're there. And also they may be quite nervous and figuring out what their schedule is going to be. So by you reaching out beforehand and setting a specific time to connect, even if you end up not being able to connect there, you at least know that you made, they know who you are and you can always follow up after. And the last thing I want to share with you actually is with a client that I just got off my coaching call with. And so she was recently laid off from her job and needs to find a new one. And she has a vision of what she wants to do, but just doesn't feel like, here's what she said to me, like, I don't feel like I'm ready for it. And I said, let me just slow you down right there. Those words, I feel, okay, are feelings factuals, are feelings facts, right? Not to invalidate her. Like her feelings are valid, but you feel like you're not ready. Do you know that you're not ready? And if you don't know, like, what are all the things that you need to learn, like information to gather to indicate to you whether or not for real you aren't ready for this? In order to get from where she's at now to the job she wants to go, I said, who can help you figure that out? Even the research you do on LinkedIn, looking at their profiles, how long it took them to get from her job to their job, the titles in between, are there skills she needs to learn, accreditations, credentials she needs to gain. Clearly can't speak. Happy fucking Friday. But there you go. And so I had just mentioned this a little bit earlier, when you're having these moments of self-doubt, to really go back to like your action plan and to chart your progress as the barometer of success, as opposed to, are you yet where you want to go? And so for her, my refrain was facts over fear. Because when there's an absence of facts, when you just don't know something, chances you are going to fill that gap of not knowing with negative self-talk. That is a way of self-protection. I want to be clear why that is, right? It's you trying to think of ways to help yourself, which, it doesn't work for you because it just keeps you paralyzed. But it is a way that you could, if you're anxious about the future, you're at least going to think through potentially all the things that you could do to prevent a bad thing from happening. So there is a reason that your default is negative. What can we do to make sure that that negative default is taken care of? Fill the gap with facts and not fear. Okay? Facts over fear. And to continue my alliteration, happy Friday. Come check me out at clairewasserman.com, although you may get a little part of that site. Hopefully it'll still be up. I'm working on it because I'm going to be refreshing my coaching offerings. I've been very energized by working one-on-one with folks. It's a way of me not feeling like I'm so remote and alone in all of this. I want to hear from you. Follow me on Instagram at Claire Gets Paid if you would like. Also on LinkedIn as I share the clients that I meet with, things they're going through, and what has helped them and me, and hopefully you. All the best to everyone watching. Much luck, much love. Now, go get paid.